Hello everybody and welcome to the annual review of my system, my solar system. I'm going to go through all the stats for the year 2023, how much we generated, how much we paid for electricity, gas, how much we made from the fit, average prices, all that sort of stuff. So let's jump straight in with what we generated. So in 2023 we generated 7.7 megawatt hours. If we compare that to 2022, you can see we generated almost a megawatt hour more in 2022. So 2023 was not as good a year for solar as 2022 was, and I think I remember when I did my 2022 video I was saying that we had a particularly good April, I think it was, where we generated an awful lot of solar in April, way more than we would normally, and I think that probably accounts for the difference. I think this last year, 2023, is probably more in line with 2021, so I think 2022 was a bit of an exceptional year. So here is the bar chart for each of the months in 2023 that shows how much I generated from each of my inverters, and it's pretty much as expected. It ramps up from January up to the middle of the year, June, which is the most productive month, and then it ramps back down again to December. But it looks like July is a bit low, really, and probably May is a little bit high. I think it's quite interesting as well that December is so much lower than January. I mean, it looks like about half. We generated about half as much in December as we did in January. So you would have thought that January and December would be fairly similar, but obviously December was pretty bad this year, as you'll see if you look at my stats video for December. It was really, really grey almost the entire month. So I guess that's why it's been so bad. Yeah, if we compare that to 2022, you can see we had a much stronger first half of the year in 2022, and we certainly generated more in December as well. So I think that's probably why 2022 was so much higher generation. The best day for the whole of 2023 was on the 4th of April, and on that day we generated 52.5 kilowatt hours, and you can see the graph here for that, and it is literally a perfect day. There's not even a cloud in the sky, so that must have been an absolute doozy of a day. I don't necessarily remember it, but yeah, that was the best day. You can see even that my shed solar even managed to produce all day long, so I suspect the batteries were quite empty, and so it managed to charge them all day long without actually getting to the point where they were full and it had to ramp down. So that's probably one of the best days in terms of graph that I've seen. Our worst day was on the 3rd of January. For the whole of 2023, it was the 3rd of January. On that day we generated just half a kilowatt hour. There's the graph for that day. It's almost flat. There's a couple of tiny little peaks on there, but I've had worse days. I think my worst day last year was like 0.1 kilowatt hours or something like that. So so 0.5 is definitely not the worst ever, but it's pretty low. So now let's have a look at a pie chart that shows how much of the power that I generated in 2023 I actually managed to keep and use, and how much got exported. So you see, managed to use 90%, or 90.8, so almost 91%, and we had to export about 9%. Now if we compare that to 2022, you can see that in 2022 it was about 90% and 10% exported. So we've done a little better in 2023. We have managed to use an extra 1%. So if you've been following my monthly stats videos, you'll know that the total number of days we spent effectively off-grid in 2023 was 126 days. So it's about a third of the year. That's not bad going at all. And we had 25 consecutive off-grid days, which is also almost a whole month. So maybe I'll try a bit harder this year and see if we can get an actual 30-day streak. But who knows? But yeah, here's the graph of how much we imported basically on each day, and yeah, where there's no blue line, that's a day where we were effectively off grid. So you can see it happens mostly around the middle of the year, as you'd expect. That's when we generate the most. But all the way from day sort of 300 onwards, you can see we're using quite a lot, and that's mostly down to the charging the Tesla a lot. Certainly at the end of this year we've been having to do a lot of mileage, so hopefully in 2024 that will come down a little bit, but we'll see. In 2023 we imported just over 7 megawatt hours, which sounds like quite a lot, because it is. Because in 2022 we only imported 4.6 megawatt hours. So there's a good, what's that, 2.5 megawatt hours of extra usage in 2023 compared with 2022. So why is that? Well, in 2022 we still had the PHEV for the first half of the year, the Mitsubishi. So that was a plug-in hybrid, and obviously for the longer trips we were buying petrol and using petrol as well as electric. But we got rid of that in 2022 in around May time, and since then we've been running 2 EVs exclusively. So for the whole of 2023 we've only run EVs, and so all those long trips that we were paying petrol for, we're now doing in the Tesla, and obviously we're filling up with electric for that. So that is almost entirely the difference between the 2 years. The extra 2.5 megawatt hours is pretty much down to filling up the Tesla. So as I said before, we got rid of the Mitsubishi Outlander in 2022, in about May. So in 2022's video you see that we bought some petrol because we still had it up until the May, but after that it was sold. So we've bought no petrol this year. We're running only EVs now, and we haven't been to a petrol station since May 2022, which is lovely because it's actually quite a pain. Now I've gotten used to just plugging my car in when I get home all the time, and it's always, ready for whatever I want to use it for. I don't have to think about popping to the petrol station ever again. It's quite nice. So let's look in more detail at how much energy went into the two EVs. So we've got a Nissan Leaf, an original one. It's pretty old now. It's done almost 100,000 miles, and we only use it for sort of local trips down to the supermarket and things like that. And we've got the Tesla, which we use for everything else, any kind of long distance stuff. So in 2023, you can see that we put just over a megawatt hour into the Leaf for the whole year, and into the Tesla we were just over 4 megawatt hours. And if we compare that to the year before, 2022, you can see that we still have the PHEV for part of the time, so some of it went in there. But you can see that the amount of energy that's gone into the Tesla is, significantly higher. It's like 2.5 megawatt hours more into the Tesla this year compared with 2022. In 2023, we did about 20,000 miles in the cars altogether, which I think is a lot more than we did in 2022. I think it was probably more like 11 or 12,000 miles in 2022. So we spent £291 on charging away from the home, and that will be mostly filling the Tesla up to come back from these long trips, because it doesn't have a battery big enough for me to charge it at home that will get us all the way there and all the way back. We usually get all the way there, no problem, with some left over, but then we'll charge when we're there so that we can make the return trip. So yeah, £291 in charging outside of the house, and then we spent a total of about £344 on charging at home. So, and that's going to be a lot cheaper than petrol. So that's 7 megawatt hours that we imported in 2023, worked out to cost us an average of 9.91 pence per kilowatt hour. That's how much we paid when you average out the nighttime rate that we used mostly and a little bit daytime rate here and there. The average works out at 9.9 pence per kilowatt hour, which is not bad, because the nighttime rate is 7.5 pence, and obviously we would have used a bit of stuff in the daytime as well, where we couldn't avoid it. In 2023, we went from Octopus Go to Intelligent Octopus Go, so we now get 6 hours of cheap rate instead of just 4 hours of cheap rate, which we had on Octopus Go. And so for part of the year, we would have had much more access to the cheap rate for longer, and so that second half of the year, when we went on to Intelligent Octopus Go, probably had a lower average price than the first half, where we only got 4 hours of cheap rate, so we would have had to dip into the expensive rate a bit more often. Next year, probably be on Intelligent Octopus Go for the whole time, so hopefully that average price will be lower next year. So for the 14 megawatt hours that we used in the whole of 2023, because the solar generated stuff is effectively free, because my solar installation has paid for itself now. I've recouped all of my original costs, so anything from here onwards is basically free. That brings the average price per unit of electricity down to 4.99 pence. So about 5 pence a kilowatt hour is basically what we've paid for every kilowatt hour that we've actually consumed in 2023. So let's have a look at our FIT payments. In 2023, the total we made from our FIT payments was £1,126.63. And if we compare that to the year before, 2022, we can see that it's almost exactly the same amount. And that's because in 2022 it was a much better year for solar. We generated more, so we should have been paid more, and we were, but obviously the price is sort of index linked, so the amount I get paid goes up in line with inflation each year. And so even though we generated less in 2023 electricity, the increase that we get paid in price that we get paid for it means that the two figures come out almost the same. So there's only about £12 in it, something like that. So in 2023 we paid to Octopus a total of £836.49 for our electricity and £839.95 for our gas, and that gives a total of £1,676.44 for all the electricity and gas that we imported from Octopus. So if we look at that total and look at the total for our FIT payment, you can see that the actual cost to me for all of the electricity and gas that we used in 2023 was just £550. It was actually £350 because I had 4 people use my referral code, so I got £200 off my bill overall. But that's not a typical situation, so that's why I've sort of put that in brackets there. The actual cost for me, if you exclude the referrals, which are like I say, not a normal situation, it would have cost me £550 for 14 megawatt hours of electricity and all my gas for all my heating. Now, if you paid for all of that on a standard tariff, that much electricity, that would have cost you about £4,100. We paid just £550. So there's a massive saving there, and that includes also driving. So all your petrol costs and stuff like that as well is included in that. So actually the saving is even more than that. That's just the saving in terms of electricity. If you actually worked out how much you would have spent on petrol to do the same kind of mileage, that number would be even higher. So that's all the stats for 2023. I think at the end of 2022 I actually made £37 profit, something like that, in terms of subtracting my FIT payments from my total payments to Octopus. I was actually still in credit by about £30. This year it's cost me about £550, and that is because of the increased electric car use that we didn't do in 2022 because we still had a plug-in hybrid in 2022, and also the fact that we're doing a lot more driving this year. I think we've done a lot more mileage this year than we did in 2022. I think we paid about £480 or so on petrol for the first half of 2022 when we still had the PHEV. Even in just those 5 months, we forked out nearly £500 in petrol, and now we don't have that, but we're forking out about £500 for our total energy usage now, compared with 2022. So it's broadly the same, but we're doing a hell of a lot more mileage now, and we generated a lot less, a megawatt hour almost less in 2023 than we did in 2022. So we still don't have a heat pump, and if we had one, would be significantly higher electric use, but then obviously we wouldn't have the gas use, and I would be able to obviously offset some of the heat pump running costs during the day with the cheap rate that I can get from charging up at night. But I would need, I think, a much bigger stack of batteries to be able to effectively run the heating and the house all day off of just nighttime rate electricity. So and that would require, you know, a significant investment in new batteries. So until I get a heat pump, it's not an issue. But okay, my phone's just warned me I'm about to hit the size limit for my video, so that's it for this for 2023. Hopefully 2024 will be better, and hopefully I'll have some more videos coming up to do with batteries and things like that. But in the meantime, thanks everybody for watching. I hope you all have a great 2024, and I'll see you all on the next video. Cheers.